Resident Evil.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the long-awaited return of the Resident Evil files. In this episode, we will be profiling some of the scariest monsters of Resident Evil, and giving you their backstory along with some helpful tips if you plan on playing any of these games. These monsters are not in any particular order, and are simply ones that I find to be interesting. We've tried to mix in some classic BOWs, along with some of the more underrated ones. If you have any suggestions for future countdowns, please leave a comment down below. And if you're new to this series, I recommend that you check out volumes 1 and 2. Links will be in the description. I'm your Uncle Unit, and join me as we once again enter a world of survival horror. Good luck. Number 10. Black Tiger. What is the one living creature that most humans on this planet are afraid of? It is, in fact, spiders, and it seems that the bigger they are, the scarier they get. So, of course, Umbrella Incorporated developed a series of spider-based bioorganic weapons known as web spinners. After being exposed to the T-virus during the Mansion incident, spiders were known to grow 3 to 6 times their original size, and Black Tiger is the largest among them. Also, unlike normal web spinners, Black Tiger is actually capable of producing web. It makes you wonder why they call them web spinners, to be honest. The massive body of Black Tiger is known to be poisonous. Its fangs can inject deadly venom into a target that can kill it within minutes. Even if you maintain a distance, be aware that it can project its venom across short distances. Due to the web spinner's unpredictable nature, the BOW research on these specimens was suspended. However, with the mansion overrun by the T-virus outbreak, the spider population could no longer be controlled. This allowed Black Tiger to reside with its web spinner siblings in the underground caverns below the courtyard. You have to watch your back at all times, as they can climb and crawl up walls and ceilings in the blink of an eye. If arachnophobia isn't an issue for you, Black Tiger doesn't really put up much of a fight. Simply running around it and shooting it in the ass will do the job. Number 9. Yawn. Yawn is another experimental BOW developed by Umbrella in their Arklay Mountain facility. This giant snake inhabits the attic of the Spencer Mansion. Its nickname, Yawn, refers to the way its mouth opens before attacking. The size of its mouth will make it easy to swallow you whole. It's nothing like any snake you've seen in your backyard or on National Geographic. The most noticeable aspect of its T-virus infection is its enormous length and girth. I'm sorry. However, Yawn exhibited examples of uncoordinated mutations, as its size became greatly inconsistent with its length, and its body became covered with various sores and tumors. It possesses amphibian characteristics, with mucus secretions covering the skin to aid it in injury, rather than having dry, rough skin. If you face this creature, don't mess around. Its fangs are dripping with poison that cannot be cured with an ordinary blue herb. If you get infected, you need a special serum to remedy it. And backtracking through the mansion to get this serum is a real pain in the ass. Number 8. Plant 42. Plant 42 is a large mutated plant that was originally part of an experiment on botanic subjects by Umbrella researcher Dr. Henry Sarton. Its name derives from the location that the plant grew on, Point 42, the dormitory in the Arklay labs. Plant 42 was created as a research specimen for the use of plant-based weaponry. As a plant, its body was fixed in place and could not mobilize, but is able to move its ivies. A report written by Dr. Sartan reads as follows. 4 days have passed since the accident. The plant at Point 42 is growing at an amazing rate. Although there are many unknown aspects about this plant, we know that in comparison with the other groups of plants, the T-virus has had a substantially stronger effect on this one. The T-virus has drastically morphed its host's anatomy as well as its size. It's difficult to imagine its original appearance. Nowhere on Earth will you find anything like it. We've also found that Plant 42 has 2 main sources of acquiring its necessary nutrients. One source is through its roots. Somehow it has rooted itself down into the basement. Immediately after the accident, a scientist went mad and destroyed the aqua ring. Ever since, the basement has been like a pool. There's a high possibility that it's one of the chemicals in the water that's promoting Plant 42's rapid growth. However, we have yet to determine the specific chemical. A bulb-like body of Plant 42 has been sighted hanging from the ceiling of the first floor. We're sure that it's using the air ducts. Numerous long tentacle-like vines are protruding from the bulb. We believe that the vines are the second means of acquiring its nutrients. When Plant 42 senses prey, it uses the tentacle-like vines to capture the prey. After doing so, suckers on the vines drain the prey of its blood. We've also noticed that it has some intelligence. When it captures its prey, or when it's inactive, the vines twine around the door to stop possible intruders. Unfortunately, several of our scientists have already fallen victim to Plant 42. We've heard stories from the survivors, and they've all observed one thing in common. When the uniform petal-like flaps open and reveal its vital internals, it has a tendency to become more aggressive. One witness reported that it was as if it was trying to protect itself. Why it behaves the way it does is still unknown. May 21st, 1998. Henry Sartan. To eliminate Plant 42, you need to formulate a chemical compound known as V-Jolt and throw it into its roots. Or you can either fight the plant the traditional way, which personally is what I prefer. Number 7. The Eliminator. The Eliminator is a primate-based BOW and was one of the earliest prototype weapons developed exclusively by James Marcus. Eliminators were produced early in the T-Virus project at the Umbrella's Executive Training School. Although the primates experienced increased muscle development, the overall transformation was not sufficient to make them viable bioweapons, and the project was put on hold. Although showing initial promise, the Eliminators were found to have undergone a significant decline in overall intelligence as a result of T-Virus experimentation, which was supposed to be the greatest asset to Umbrella's BOW program. Mass production of the Eliminator was cancelled, and only a handful of specimens were preserved for future testing and general research. The existing Eliminators were left to rot. However, James Marcus released them upon Rebecca Chambers and Billy Cohen after they infiltrated the Umbrella Executive Training School. Unlike humans mutated by the T-Virus, Eliminators do not suffer from brain damage, and as a result could follow basic commands. The remaining Eliminators have been exhausted by negligence and hunger, suggesting that they are not at full strength when you encounter them. However, you cannot let your guard down, as they love hiding in the dark and suddenly jumping out and attacking you when you least expect it. Number 6. Executioner Majini. This towering hulk is a part of the instigator Majini's Islamic rebellion in Kijuju. This man's life before the rebellion is unknown. When implanted with a Type 2 plaga, he reacted differently to its chemical secretions than other subjects. This transformation led to a significant change in height and ultra-enhanced strength, making him more of a threat than other Majini. The reason behind the Executioner's exceptional vitality is a muscle and skin-enhancing chemical, a unique secretion found only in the Executioner. Despite being extremely dangerous, he is quite slow, but be aware of his sudden axe slam and choke attacks. If his back is turned to you, quickly move away, as he will most likely turn while swinging his axe, which is surprisingly fast. His lack of speed will ultimately give you an advantage when encountering this creature. Keep attacking and you will eventually bring him down. The Executioner Majini has also made an appearance in the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil films, which could be a good or bad thing depending on who you ask, but I thought it was cool to see him on the silver screen, and I can only hope that they bring him back for future Resident Evil games. I've always viewed this guy as Resident Evil's answer to Pyramid Head. Number 5. Neil Fisher. Neil Fisher was a member of the Federal Bioterrorism Commission, an American organization set up to tackle the emerging threat of bioweapons being used by terrorist groups. He was responsible for observing bioterrorism trends around the world and leading relief efforts. He would eventually become a leader of the TerraSave organization. Inspired by Morgan Lansdale, Fisher was willing to take extreme actions to fight bioterrorism. This would ultimately lead to his demise. Fisher aided Alex Wesker in the final preparations of her rebirth ceremony. Neil was betrayed upon completion and was shot in the neck by Wesker with a sample of the Ouroboros virus. Due to the presence of T. Phobos in his body, a violent mutation occurred, turning him into a giant muscular mutant. Through his mutation, Neil was driven insane and turned on his former comrades, lunging at them with his massive body, while declaring his intention to restore the FBC. Fisher's story is one that is all too familiar with the Resident Evil lore. Fisher's fate was sealed when he chose to ally himself with a Wesker. Number 4. Lapotica. Lapotica is a BOW created by Derek C. Simmons. They are the result of failed experiments to replicate Ada Wong. Lapotica is able to disperse an airborne form of the C virus, transforming any bystanders into C virus zombies. Its name comes from a Serbian word to describe feminine beauty, which is ironic. Several of these creatures are responsible for the outbreak of zombies in tall oaks. Leon and Helena unwittingly released one of these creatures from the hidden chambers underneath the Tall Oaks Cathedral, and it immediately attacked and infected survivors who had taken refuge there. I find this creature to be particularly repulsive. It basically runs around and farts out a virus that creates more enemies for you. It's a real pain in the ass to deal with. My advice: take out this thing as quickly as possible. Number 3. Haos. This massive monster is a human-based BOW created by the C virus. Its name comes from the Serbian word for chaos. The Haos project was Carla Radamy's and Neo Umbrella's ultimate bioweapon. It was so important to Carla's plans that it required an entire underwater facility to support the creature once its evolution was complete. Neo Umbrella initially planned to release Haos upon the world once it was fully developed, but a contingency plan was devised in case Carla Radamy's met her demise before the BOW was completed. Haos would be released regardless of whether it was fully developed or not, with the intention that it could spread the C-virus across the globe before its imperfections took effect. Haos appears to have the ability to change its own mass depending on the situation it finds itself in. If Haos finds itself in an area too small for its gigantic body, it will condense itself into a smaller version. Haos also appears to have the ability to grow rapidly in size when given enough time. It will spew organic growths that act as bombs and use its massive tentacles to crush its enemies. I personally consider Haos to be one of the most powerful BOWs on record. It would have marked the end of the world if it had been able to complete its development and released according to plan.
I need help
here! Number 2. Derek C. Simmons. Derek Clifford Simmons was the National Security Advisor to President Adam Benford and was the one responsible for the thermobaric destruction of Raccoon City. Derek was initially employing Ada Wong's services as a spy, and eventually began to grow an immense fascination with her. However, once Ada Wong discovered that Simmons was responsible for the destruction of Raccoon City, she quickly removed herself from his company. Derek, on the other hand, felt a strong emotional attachment towards Ada and desperately wanted her to return. Because he was unable to have her, he then decided to create a clone of her, selecting his best researcher, Carla Radimes, as his unwilling test subject.
Hope you got friends on the other side, 'cause no one's gonna miss you here.
With Ada Wong's DNA in the C-virus, he managed to create an almost perfect clone of Ada Wong. It seems like a triangle love story between Simmons, Ada Wong, and Carla Radimes, which involves greed, the thirst for power, betrayal, and frustration.
Well, this is unexpected.
During an encounter with Leon and Helena during the Lanshang bioterror attack, Simmons decided to tie up loose ends, but was infected by the C-virus by one of Carla Radimes' henchmen. Enraged beyond all reason by this betrayal, Simmons attempted to escape and stumbled onto a passing train. The virus would consume him, and ultimately mutated his body into a horrific quadruped monstrosity.
Do this to me!
After an intense battle on the train, a well-placed shot by Helena sent Simmons overboard. It was believed that this finished him off for good. However, due to his severe mutation, Simmons proved to be incredibly resilient. He made his way to the Quad Tower, a location used by Neo Umbrella to conduct bio-experiments. This was also the site where Project Ada began so many years ago. After killing the BSAA agents guarding the facility, and letting zombies inside to infect the survivors that had taken refuge there, Simmons would encounter the real Ada Wong. Infuriated, mutations overtook his body once again, transforming him into a massive behemoth. Completely consumed by the virus and his anger towards those who betrayed him, he now resorts to only the most basic of instincts: to hunt. Number 1. Evelyn.
This is your fault.
Evelyn is a genetically modified human conceived as part of the next generation of bioweapons research conducted by the Connections. She is designed to eliminate enemies without the need for combat. Definitely a little sister no one wants to have. As a result of merging an anomalous bacteria into her genome during the embryonic stage, she is granted the ability to control the minds of people who she comes into contact with. Evelyn was unique, being the first E-type bioweapon, alongside her unhealthy obsession with creating a family to suit her own needs. Evelyn was artificially aged to appear as a 10-year-old child, for the purposes of infiltration.
You can die.
Agents Alan Droney and Mia Winters discreetly escorted Evelyn under the guise of parental guardians onto the cargo ship Annabelle, bound for Central America. where they planned to disembark and take her to a second laboratory. The ship was caught during a violent hurricane off the coast of Louisiana. This caused Evelyn to break free and rebel against her handlers. She also began referring to Mia as her mommy, and made it clear that she intends to have her own family. Evelyn and Mia would both wash up alongside the wreckage of the Annabelle, and were eventually rescued by Jack Baker, which led to the events of Resident Evil 7. Evelyn is willing to do anything to preserve her family, and will kill anyone who gets in her way. During the final stage of Resident Evil 7, you finally get to see her for what she really is.